Hi, everyone. I'm News 8 investigative reporter Jeff Derderian, and we're having an extended conversation today on WTNH.com about a story that we'll be doing tonight at 5:30 on WTNH. The fight to be free has to do with domestic violence and also some new technology that's been expanded in Connecticut. Basically, it allows for domestic violence attackers to wear an ankle bracelet that tracks them move by move, second by second, minute by minute, if you will, and it's giving an added layer of protection to survivors of domestic violence. So we thought it would be a good idea to have some additional content and also some information from people who were part of our story. Again, the story will air tonight, 5:30 on Channel 8. I'd like to introduce Jessica first. She's our person who is in our story and is a survivor of domestic violence, a courageous, strong woman. I've been doing this for a fairly long time and have not met many women like Jessica before, and her story is powerful and impactful. And also Meghan Scanlon, who is the CEO and president of the Connecticut Coalition Against Domestic Violence here in Connecticut. So ladies, thanks for joining us. We appreciate it here on WTNH.com. First, Jess, if I can just talk with you, can you just sort of sum up your story, if you will? I know there's a lot to it, but you have been in some relationships that have been abusive, and it took its toll, but you're now trying to turn that around. We'll get to that in a second, but just, if you can, for people that don't know your story briefly, just tell me some of the things that you experienced in your relationship that we highlighted in our story.
Okay. Well, I've experienced every physical, emotional, mental abuse in my relationships that I've had in the past. And, you know, the relationships start out great, and then they tend to like get a control of you using like love bombing and making you feel like you're great until they start the physical, emotional breakdown of you. So calling you names and making you feel that you're not good for anybody else. And, the last one, it got to the point where one time I woke up and I was paralyzed, and I didn't even realize that we were even in a physical fight until I saw the bruises on my head and my chest. And those were the bruises that you guys saw on in the story today that you guys highlighted. The bruises on the arm was a separate fight, so this wasn't just a one occurrence with the physical. And then when I went to go get checked out at the hospital, he left a very mean and disgusting and demeaning voicemail, explaining how I got those bruises on my head and my chest. And at that moment I was like, I have to get out or I won't be living anymore. Right. So it took a long time to finally get the courage and go, and I put myself through a residential program, IOP. Even during the time of leaving, I still went back. And then there was just one day where I was like, that's it. Like, if I do not take care of this now, no one will know who I am. So that gave me the strength. And then he went to jail, and then he contacted me through that correctional facility. I pressed charges for the violation of the criminal protective order. He was extradited to Connecticut, and then that's where I got that GPS monitoring system. I was approached by Safe Haven at the Waterbury Courthouse to wear one. So that's like in a nutshell, that's everything.
Right, that's the Reader's Digest version, right? I know there's a lot more detail to it. And Meghan, if you could just kind of comment a little bit, not about Jessica's story specifically, but you folks at the Coalition Against Domestic Violence hear these kinds of stories all the time, right? Relationships start off okay, and then there's certain things which we'll get into in a minute, but certain things kind of go off the rails, if you will, and there's certain warning signs. But you folks are used to hearing these kinds of stories in the work that you do every single day, right?
Yeah, unfortunately, Jessica's story, although is unique to her, there's similar shared experiences from individuals across the state who have experienced either non-physical or physical forms of violence or both. So we really stress to people that what your perpetrator is trying to do is establish a pattern of control. in the relationship an unhealthy pattern of control that's tied to your self-value, self-worth, and that's intentional. So it doesn't happen randomly for that individual. It's very intentional. And it often doesn't feel like it is intentional in the relationship because you're in it and you do care about this person and you just want the abuse to stop. But we really try to provide training and education and services across the state to help people like Jessica better understand the situations and how to get help.
Right. Jess, when it comes to the ankle bracelet program, when we had talked for our story, by the way, that's going to air again tonight at 5:30 on Channel 8. We're talking with Meghan Scanlon. She's the president and CEO of the Connecticut Coalition Against Domestic Violence, and Jessica, who is a survivor of domestic violence. Jess, when you were involved with the program, tell people a little bit how it worked. The person who committed the violence against you had to wear an ankle bracelet, a typical one like we always see, but you had to carry something too. And, you know, I learned from you that it was sort of a positive and a negative, if you will.
Yeah.
Can you talk about that?
Sure. So you get like this device. A person comes over and explains it to you. You have to charge it for 2 hours every day. Around the same time, and you have to carry that device with you because the point of it is that in that 2,500 square feet radius, the person with the ankle bracelet, your abuser, the perpetrator, the defendant in the case, cannot come near you. So if they do, you will get alerted. So you'll get called by a number. There's a California number. It's 24/7, and then from a regular Connecticut number, which is through like whatever services like Safe Haven, they'll call you. And when they alert you, like it's your like you have to like go into your safety plan. And like I said, Jeff, before, like everyone's situation is different. So, you know, certain perpetrators and abusers have like curfews and certain places they have to be at certain times. For mine, it was just to stay away from me. So, you know, and if his GPS monitoring system cut off or like went dead and they couldn't find him, they'll give me a call. The first time they called me, it was like 1:30 in the morning, and like it was like anxiety filled, to be honest. And this is where I think the device is great because it's there to help like keep people protected and let you know if someone's around you that can hurt you, and you can follow your safety plan. So you alert the cops and then you go for where you have to go. Like, all right, well, he's near me, so I have to go here. That's my safety plan. You know, the negative things and the things that me and you talked about where you were like, okay, I understand that, like talking to you, is the mental piece of it. It's a daily reminder that right now you are connected with this individual. He has the bracelet on and you have that device, and the bracelet connects to the device. So that's like another triggering point. Mentally, it could be triggering. I feel like the radius should be more than 2,500 square feet, and that mental part, people should be kind of like prepared almost for it. Like maybe like you know how we like teach people about warning signs and how to stay away and how to re-love yourself. And so like with this ankle bracelet, it should be like, all right, this is what we should do when we feel triggered. You know, you got to remember that device and you got to carry it with you. And, you know, it was a full year before he contacted me. And actually it was a day before a full year. So like that sparked that. And then like him getting extradited and released and we have to use that ankle bracelet system. I was like, ugh. So at first I was mad. And then I realized like the good points of it. And then I realized like, you know what, here are like two major things that could be really helpful for the victims that wear it. Because, you know, this device has so much potential and it's such a step in the right direction.
Right. Meghan, what about the coalition's experience with the GPS monitoring system? How has it been received? Is there any sort of feedback you can give us just in terms of what the organization there thinks about it?
Yeah, so I mean, we center people like Jessica's voice in that. So I think what we have seen is that for some survivors, it absolutely has been helpful. in terms of how they want to feel safe. But we also acknowledge that for some, it's not the best option because of some of the issues that Jessica just brought up, because it is too triggering, because it is creating more mental and emotional trauma for those individuals than it's creating safe physical space. So we advocate for it as an option for victims that it makes sense to use. It's not necessarily a mandatory program. Victims do not have to enroll in the notification if they don't want to. And we do, our court advocates, Jessica alluded to Safe Haven, our court advocates probably walked her through the program and how it works, and it is their choice to enroll or not to enroll. We do want to emphasize, though, the piece around offender accountability, because that is essentially what it is also supposed to be addressing. Is that offender being held accountable? Are they adhering to whatever protective order and stayaways are in place in that case? And we want to make sure that that's happening, because we want to be able to protect victims and keep them safe from any other physical or mental or emotional abuse.
And I think, Meg, you had said that when we talked for our story, that basically this is not intended to stop all tragedies related to domestic violence. I think, Jess, you would probably agree too. I'd like to get your thought in a minute. But Meghan, that's true, right? This is not, we're not trying to give people the impression that this will solve all of the tragedies related to domestic violence, unfortunately, but it's designed as another layer of protection for women who have had instances in their lives where they've been physically abused, mentally abused, etc. Right? So it's not a catch-all. It doesn't cure everything, right?
Yeah, it's not going to cure. Look, if somebody, and we often, and we talk to victims about this, if somebody wants to violate a protective order, whether they're on GPS or not, they're going to violate it. And
Right.
That's where the safety plan becomes really important. And that's why, connecting to our services and working with an advocate and connecting our 24/7 staff to victims is important. So no, it's not going to solve every single intimate partner violence or family violence homicide or any, near fatalities, but it does allow for survivors to have options to protect them and to keep them safe and to have ownership and empower them to take control back in their lives. And that's why it does make sense to have it as an option for some survivors, not all.
Right. Jess, what about you? I know you had said that overall you think the program is good. In thinking back on it now, since we've chatted a couple of weeks back and the story has aired, and again, I just want to remind people that the story will air again tonight, 5:30 on Channel 8. We're talking with Meghan Scanlon. She's the CEO and president of the Connecticut Coalition Against Domestic Violence, and Jessica, who is a domestic violence survivor who has started a nonprofit, which we'll talk about before we end. But Jess, just go back to my question for a second. You overall felt some additional level of security and safety with it, even though it could be improved a little bit, is kind of what you said, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, sorry.
No problem.
Can you guys see me?
Yep. There
Okay,
you go.
perfect. So, sorry about that. I'm doing the Zoom on my phone. So, yes, I think it's very safe. It's a step in the right direction of that extra security blanket. And like I mentioned before, like every case is different. So like, some people may feel that it's perfect for them. Some people may feel that it's not for them, and they have that decision to choose, which is great. But I also feel that like once I got over the anger of how things rolled about, like I was like, yes, like this GPS monitoring system does make me feel safer, because they'll alert me and I'm ready. Like it's okay. It's time for me to do what I have to do, whether call the cops, whether move to a different location, or let my job know that, hey, he's around, so be on the lookout. So I do feel like that, it's important to have, because sometimes you feel like you don't have a safe place or you don't have a safety net, and for it to be provided and be like, you make the decision whether or not you want it, it like kind of gives you back that like control. So, you know, you just, like I said, you just have to work through it like mentally for yourself, you know?
One of the things, Jess, we talked about was some people might say or think, well, you can just leave. You don't have to stay. Why did you stay so long, etc., which is some of the stereotypical answers or thoughts you might hear from people. But talk a little bit about why it's not so easy for people just to kind of, take up and leave, and there's other things that come with that.
Yeah, so from a few people that I've worked with and my own personal self, everybody has a thought process of why, not excuses, but like things like for some people, they have been through trauma in their childhood, and that's how they feel. That's all they know, and that's all they think they deserve. So a big thing is self-esteem and not having enough self-care and self-love and self-worth. Others are financially tied to their abusers.
Right.
They're stay-at-home moms or dads, because it happens to both male and females. And the other person's like, well, if you go out on your own, you can't do it without me. It's hearing things like, oh, no one else is going to love you like I love you. And, the one thing that me and other survivors and other victims that I've come across, like, our abusers bring us down to a very low, and they're essentially at that moment, in that moment of time, they're the only ones that can bring us back up again. So it's like a vicious cycle, and
Right.
it's very meticulous. Like, it's not like just someone's gonna hit you one day and that's it. They know what they like, and majority of abusers have been abused in their past as well. So it's like one side or the other. It's one extreme or the other. And so mental health is a big part of it. And I think, emotional abuse is a lot stronger than like the physical abuse, because just hearing something every single day over and over, you start to believe what they say.
Right.
Other people that are from different countries and different religions, they grow up differently. Like, okay, they listen to their dad, they listen to their husband, and then they listen to their son, and vice versa. And, they feel like where they are in life is where they're at.
Right.
So it takes a long time to kind of rewire that in your brain and to really say, like, I love myself and I deserve so much better.
Right.
I went into the residential program. One of the workers was like, one of the caregivers was like, all right, I want you to write down I am worth it on a sticky note. And I was like, oh, this is corny, like, no way. And then like put it in your mirror in your room. And I'm like, all right, I'll do it. I'll humor you.
Right.
But I still have that sticky note on a mirror to today. Like, and I tell every single person I come across, victims surviving, victims escaping, and survivors, get that sticky note, put I'm worth it on it, and I'm telling you, like, and we still talk about that sticky note story, but it's something so small, but it's so big.
Right, that's really good advice. We have probably a minute left, guys. Meghan, if people are watching this online at WTNH.com and they need some resource or they need some help, where can they turn? What should they do?
I think they should turn to our 24/7 statewide hotline. So we have a 24/7 hotline. It's staffed by real people, real advocates trained in domestic violence. You can call, text, email, or chat CT Safe Connect. The website, ctsafeconnect.org. The phone number is 888-779-774-2900. And that's the best way to get connected to places like Safe Haven, like you heard about today, that can offer some of those services. And I think that's the biggest piece that I think people don't understand is their abuser will tell them the things that Jessica described, but we have an entire statewide network that can address any fears you have around housing or financial security or childcare, any of those things. So you aren't alone in this, even though it very much feels like it, because that is an intentional tactic by your abuser to make you feel alone and isolated. But there are 400 advocates across the state ready to help you.
Yeah, there are a lot of resources. And I know, Jess, you've started your own nonprofit, endthe7.org. It's designed to help other women that may have been in the situation that you have been in. Just maybe talk about that for 30 seconds if you can.
Sure. So while escaping, I was like, there's something I have to do also to help make this transition smoother. Because sometimes, like, resources reach out, or the resources you reach out to can lead different ways. So I kind of want to like make where the disconnects are.
Right.
And on average, a person goes back to their abuser 7 times. So I was like, you know what? We want to stop that. We want to stop that number. We want to lower that number and then create that number to be 0. So it is our mission as survivors together to help each other. And that statistic of going back in an average of 7 times.
Right. And the website, I got to wrap it up, guys, but the website is endthe7.org. That's Jessica's organization that she started. And then Meghan Scanlon from the Connecticut Coalition Against Domestic Violence. Thank you for being with us as well. That number, I want to say it again, 888-774-2900. There it is on your screen, 888-774-2900. If you need some help, call that number. There is a lot of help available. Jessica and Meghan, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. Folks, we hope you watch the story tonight, 5:30, Channel 8, and we'll be doing more of these extended conversations right here on WTNH.com. I'm Jeff Derderian. Thanks for being here.